John, what do you think is the greatest game of all time?
The greatest game of all time?
The greatest game of all time. That
Regardless of
because
platform? Any game?
yeah, regardless of the entire history of games, what is the greatest game of all time? And when you think about it, it's like that's really tricky.
Mm.
And I somehow got in my head that there used to be these old IGN articles where top 100 games on NES, top 100 games on Super Nintendo, Genesis, so forth. And I would hear people react to them, be like, oh, they're crazy, or oh, of course, this one's the top one, or whatnot, sort of giving IGN a lot of flack for that. And in a similar way to how I felt I seen people react to the Game Awards and their nominations, like, oh, okay, it's common denominator, and they're missing the whole point. I'm like, okay, let's see if we can put some money where their mouths are. And I came up with an insane idea over on Bluesky where I'm going to post every single console and handheld that kind of matters. Like, sorry, Engage, you're not going to get included in this. And give me your top 10 games on that system, or PC, or arcade, or whatever it is, or handheld. And then put them all together to have an ultimate, this is the top games. And then from that list, have everybody post. So just started this whole experiment, and we have the NES to start with. And I voted, you voted, but you haven't seen the results yet. I took some time to actually tabulate these results. I thought it'd be actually fun to, rather than just keep this to Bluesky, put it over here so people would know about it and kind of see what the results, because I'll be honest, in some ways I'm surprised, in other ways I'm not. It's a very interesting list, especially when I was in the process of tabulating it.
I'm hoping they match my answers exactly, and if they
yeah,
don't,
exactly.
really
John, you
mad.
just predicted it exactly. You know exactly what it is. Now, obviously, there's still time to take part in this. There is still plenty more consoles and stuff to talk about as we go through this. So, shameless plug of my own Bluesky, BitNerd, if you want to vote. I'm not going to clog the GVG Bluesky account because I retweet it constantly because I give people a week to vote. But yeah. So before we get into our top 10, because I basically have John here because I want your reactions, because it's more exciting than me just talking about it.
Sure.
But to break it down, we had about over 150, probably close to 175 different people vote on this, giving me their top 10 list, which doesn't seem like a lot, but trust me, tabulating this sucked. There's a lot to count. It is a points-based system. So if somebody gave me their top game, that was 10 points. Second, 9, and so forth, down to one point for their 10th favorite game, or whatnot. And then I just put them all together. And so the one that got the most points, that's the one that was the most popular and that got us our top 10. But what's fascinating about this is that from all those different people, 164 different games were represented on the NES. Like it was quite the range of games, and some of them only got like a single vote. A lot of them only got like a single vote, like a favorite of a lot of people. Some of them got multiple, but they're still got per low down the list, so they didn't get a huge representation. But like, somebody remembered Cubicle, or whatever you want to call it, or Shin Onigashima. That stuff was remembered. Somebody remembered that Joe and Mac had an NES version. Okay, sure. It's all very odd. So I have the top 10 here. We have the 164 different games represented, and calculating them all up, 23 of them got above 100 points.
Ooh,
it's actually quite impressive.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the top 10, and I'll give some more stats after we get through this. But John, do you have a prediction what number 10 was?
I'm going to say number 10 is Kid Icarus.
Kid Icarus. Good guess. Did not make the top 10.
It didn't make the top 10. Okay.
Did not make the top 10.
So these 10 games are going to be better than Kid Icarus then? Every single
apparently.
one? Okay.
I honestly, yeah.
Okay.
There's one I question a little bit personally, but I think overall, yeah. So number 10 with 221 points is Dragon Quest III.
Oh, I thought that would be much higher.
I thought so at first, but there's it has some competition, and of course, it's not getting as many votes. I think it's probably one of the most influential games. I personally, I would put it higher, but I get it. It's not exactly Dragon Quest hasn't fully taken off. I'm not getting a Japanese audience involved with this, obviously.
True. Yeah, it's a game that still holds up really well today. The NES also had Dragon Quest 4, so I wonder if that's gonna show up.
Dragon Quest 4. Dragon Quest 4 got quite a few votes, but did not get above 100.
Interesting. Yeah. But when it comes down to it, I think Dragon Quest 3 doesn't exactly feel like other NES RPGs. It's very the fundamentals of that game are pretty much what we have today. A bit more grindy perhaps, but it's an RPG in the most pure form, and it's still so fun.
Yeah.
The remake didn't even have to change much, really.
Not really, just
yeah.
maybe expand on a few things, but the basic core systems, it feels like they took up some ideas from the SNES version, but still the basic ideas were there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm perfectly okay with Dragon Quest 3 making this list.
I'm glad it's in the top 10. If it weren't in the top 10, it would be wrong. It would be very wrong.
Yeah, it would definitely be wrong. All right, number 9. What prediction for the ninth? I guess we'll go with popular. Ninth most popular game or most voted on game.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing in live audience, there's one person that thinks they're the only Contra vote. And I voted for Contra too. So I'm going to say that there are more of us. And I'm going to say that Contra is number 9.
Contra is not number 9.
No.
However, there was a lot more of you. Contra did not make the top 10. Okay. However, it is one of 23 games above that got above 100 points.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
It had a pretty respectable run.
Okay,
and is higher than some that you'd be surprised about. But I'm not going to give those because that'll give you hints of what's not in the top 10. But no, number 9 is Super Mario Brothers 2 USA at 253 points.
All right. I can see that. It's a great game. I think people are definitely over the stigma of it just being a reskin these days. There used to be a big thing in in the 2000s. I think now we can just sort of see it as a genuinely good game, like we used to when it was new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it when it came out. It was different. It was fun. I've played Lost Levels. Yes, I will take 2 USA over Lost Levels any day of the week.
Yeah.
It is genuinely good. Lots of fun secrets in the same way. And hey, we got Shy Guys from it and Birdo.
Yeah, a lot of core Mario staples came from this. I grew up with the GBA version, Mario Advance, so I'm used to all the sound effects and everything. But no matter what version you play, yeah, this is a really good game. And I played Doki Doki Panic on Famicom Disk System, and it's weird that doesn't have a run button. There's a lot of just strange things that USA changed, and it's a better game for those adjustments.
Yeah, a lot of time that it happened a lot where it's almost like the beta version came out in Japan and then they cleaned things up for the Western release.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Number 8. What's your prediction, John?
So I know a lot of people don't tend to like it much these days, but I feel like there are more NES Metroid fans than they'd let themselves be known. And I feel like Metroid's in the top 10.
I'm impressed. Number 8 is Metroid.
Okay, all right, yeah. It's really good. It's probably not top 5 good, but it is still really, really good.
I'm actually surprised, but I have not gone back to the original Metroid for a long time. But with the one I tried to play, I was like, oh no.
So I had the opposite experience. I didn't love this game growing up. I never really finished it up until recent years. But before Dread came out, I did a run of all the Metroids, and I think once you've done one playthrough of NES Metroid, it actually becomes quite cozy. Like you can just sort of switch your brain off. Once you know the general layout, you can switch your brain off and just let yourself take the wheel. It's really fun just to play through in like an hour. But that first playthrough can be tough.
There's a lot of games with your first time through is actually going to be not as fun, but when you go back to it, you have the basic understanding of it. It does improve quite a bit.
Yeah. It's nice on modern systems too, because obviously there was a password for the save system on NES. Famicom Disk System had saving, but when you can just save stage, that changes a lot.
Makes it a lot easier to just manage. For point's sake, it had 302 points. So about 50 more than Super Mario Brothers 2. So, yeah. Number 7. See if you can keep that streak going. Can you predict what
Mm.
number 7 was?
So my number one choice was Punch Out, and I
Uh-huh.
don't feel like everybody gives that game the credit it deserves, and I feel like that might have landed around here.
Number 7 is not
Okay,
Punch Out.
all right,
It is Castlevania,
okay.
which, I'm happy it made the top 10. That was my, when I was tallying these, that was my big, I'm a big Castlevania fan. I love the original. I think it's the strongest out of the trilogy. 3 is good, but they overtuned the difficulty in the American version. It's nice to have the Japanese version. Brings a lot to it, but I feel like um Castlevania just has that classic feel to it.
Mm.
It
Was
is a
Castlevania
super solid platform.
3 one of the top 21 or not? It
Yes, it
was.
did. It actually for doing points wise, Castlevania 3 was number 12.
Ah, okay. So it nearly
Yeah.
made it.
It nearly made it. It was so close. It just didn't quite make it into the top 10. So yeah, it's still brilliant. I mean, honestly, I do want to give a rundown of these top 23 games because they're all worth playing. Honestly, a few more beyond that too. But yeah.
Well,
Uh, so yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with it. Castlevania is friggin' great. So yeah, number 6.
I personally wouldn't put it in a top 10, but I do wonder if a lot of people voted for Earthbound Beginnings, Mother 1.
Hmm. Number 6 is not
Okay.
Earthbound Beginnings. Earthbound Beginnings did make the top 23 though. It came in at I believe at number 20.
It deserves around. It's still a charming game, but it's definitely
Yeah.
not better than Dragon Quest 3.
No, I played it recently and it is quite charming. It's a bit of a nothing plot. A lot of characters come in late. It's a little circuitous. It's, there's issues with it, but I mean, I still was charmed by the
Yeah.
end, and very unique final boss.
For sure.
You can definitely see the Undertale influence in that final boss.
Absolutely.
Um, number 6 was Super Mario Brothers, the original.
I was wondering if that was gonna turn up or not.
For a while, I was unsure because it was not getting a lot of votes, not getting a lot of attention. And then all of a sudden it was neck and neck with Super Mario Brothers 2. Like for a
Wow.
while, I thought Super Mario Brothers 2 was actually going to beat it. And then more votes came in and the original just shot up.
It's the most replayable of the NES games for me, at least. Like if I have like 5 minutes to kill, it's very easy just to go from 1-1 to 8-4 because of the warp zones. They're just going from 1-2 to 4-1 to 8-1. It's so quick and easy for that.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you can break that game because I was terrible at doing the 1-up trick as a kid.
Yeah.
Now I can do it, no issue. So you just do 1-1, build up your lives, go to 1-2, do the warps, and get to Bowser, and you're set to go.
Yeah.
But it was my very first video game, so I have a nostalgic place in my heart for it.
It's not too obvious of a pick either. I don't think it deserves the credit for what it does. Unlike later Mario's, which have a lot more flexibility in the jump, this one's a lot more fixed, which isn't a bad thing because you can learn the entire game. Like from memory, you can learn like when to press jump exactly, and it's going to play out the same every time. And there's a nice like homeliness to that.
Absolutely. I mean, I haven't gone back to it in a while, but I feel like it's something that's just easy to go back to. And that's impressive for being pretty much the first scrolling platformer.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, yeah. All right, top 5. What came in at number 5, John?
Ooh, okay. Let's think. Okay. I reckon that I'm going to say Punch Out again.
I'm going to say Punch Out again?
Yeah.
It is not Punch Out.
All right.
Number 5 is Mega Man 2.
Okay. I knew a Mega Man would be in here somewhere. I imagine 2 was the only Mega Man in the top 10.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mega Man 2 is the only one in the top 10, which I personally don't agree with since, well, I understand why 2 is here. It is the favorite by far. But I feel of the NES games that 4 is probably the strongest. But it just all comes to personal taste. What's very interesting, actually, stat-wise, about Mega Man being in here is it has the most representation in the top 23. It was Mega Man 2, of course, at number 5. Next up, just below, like 5 points below
Whoa.
Castlevania 3, was Mega Man 3.
Huh.
And then after that was Mega Man 4. And then Mega Man 6 also made it up in the top 23,
Interesting.
getting above 100 points. So that's consistency. I feel like if all that was channeled into a single game, Mega Man might be a stronger contender.
Yeah. A lot of NES games have duologies, maybe a trilogy. Mega Man has a lot. There's 6 of them. So I guess at some point it's diminishing returns. Not everybody has played all of them. I think
Yeah.
2's kind of the one people gravitate towards. 3's got a little bit of rough edges towards, like, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
4's very good too. I think 2, it doesn't really have that many problems. Like, there's some issues in there, but it's still one of those like very easy to come back to ones.
Yeah. It's a comfort game. It's, I think 2 stands out because it is the biggest leap from one game to the next.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you don't get the giant leaps you do after that point.
Yeah, I agree. Live audience, the wall trap. Yeah, screw that.
nobody likes the wall trap. There's some issues with the boss designs toward the end of that game. But all right, number 4.
Well, I was thinking this myself just now, but live audience said it too. Kirby's Adventure. I wonder if that's in the top 10.
Kirby's Adventure is not number 4.
Okay.
Number 4 is Punch Out.
Well, I'm glad it's pretty close towards the end, because I think Punch Out is the best aged NES game. It's basically flawless. Like, there's nothing wrong with this game.
I will say it's a little punishing with it when you lose too many times in a row. You have to refight the previous guys, and that
You got to get good.
I know you got to get good, but I'm only going to get good if I get to fight the same guy again.
But it's one of those games that's kind of its own genre. It gets called a fighting game a lot. It's not really. It's more of a puzzle game or like a rhythm game, if anything. It's like learning the patterns, learning secrets in the background. Punch Out, I think, is it's my personal favorite NES game, and I'm glad it's somewhere towards the end of the list.
You hope for your personal ones to make it into that top 10, to have it go on to the next round, to have that contention to be the top game of all time in this case. But I'm going to be very interested once we get to the Super Nintendo, because I never hear anybody talk about Super Punch Out.
No, I don't have, like, I think it's a good game, but it's weird. I love Punch Out. I don't really play Super Punch Out much for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Very odd, but just it was close too. Again, 442 points for Super Mario Brothers, 467 points for Mega Man 2, 476 points. There was a 9-point difference between Punch Out and Mega Man 2.
That's so close. Yeah.
So, yeah,
one person could have changed that.
Yeah, one more vote in one way, or it was interesting. But now we get to number 3.
Okay. Well, you said Kirby's Adventure wasn't number 4. You didn't dismiss it from the top 10. But I'm going to ignore that anyway, and I'm going to say that number 3 is Zelda.
Number 3 is not The Legend of Zelda. Number 3 is Kirby's Adventure.
I should have stuck with my gut. The next one's going to be Zelda.
Yeah. I'll just go ahead. I want to talk about this because it's fascinating. But number 3 and number 2 was Kirby's Adventure, and then number 2 was Legend of Zelda. Yeah. This was a knuckle drag, like one of the biggest fights I saw while tallying this list. It was back and forth so much, and then there'd be moments where Zelda would pull ahead, and all of a sudden here comes a bunch of Kirby votes, and then all of a sudden like Kirby pulls ahead, and all of a sudden here comes this bunch of Zelda votes, and it just at one point right currently so there was no chance for any other game to reach these two at 3 and 2, because Punch Out was at 476, Kirby's Adventure was at 724.
Whoa.
And Zelda was at 737.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, like at one point there was one more vote that came in, but at one point, as I was tallying this, there was only a 4-point difference at the end of this, and then one more vote came in, and that put the spread a little bit further.
Damn.
But with that many votes, it was only a 4-point difference.
Jesus. And Kirby's Adventure is so ambitious for NES. Like, it's if you compare that to early platformers like Super Mario Brothers, it's like a generational jump. And it you can feel that in its performance. This game lags a lot on the NES. The 3DS 3D Classics version is just smooth as butter. That's a great way to play this game. And I think the performance would hold it back for me personally. Like, I wouldn't rank this like top 3, but it's still like the core design is great though.
Yeah, that's why it's up there for me. Is the core design's just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
You have all these different powers. It really is what kind of established what Kirby is. Like, you got Dreamland setting the stage, but Adventure is where he really stood out and showed what he could do, and having all these different powers. It really was a grander time, and it does take advantage of the fact that it's such a late
yeah,
NES title. I think it just, as far as the platformers on NES go, it absolutely stands out. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like,
And
just
of course,
the idea of copy abilities, like, it's normal now, but back then that would have been like a dream concept. Like, just coding that
oh
sounds
yeah,
nuts.
just the idea of like, I'm going to try to eat all the enemies to see what I
Yeah,
get, and the excitement from that. Yeah, it's the eternal appeal of Kirby.
yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah, Legend of Zelda number 2 with 737 points. And um, I used to think that Zelda was more of a guide game, but upon watching a playthrough of Zelda through from Maximilian Dude and then replaying it myself
Mm.
under the same idea of purposely not using a guide and just writing down the hints that the game gives you as you find and explore. No, this game is perfectly beatable without that guide.
Yeah.
It's will take you a lot longer, but you can do it.
It's not that cryptic. There are a few portions that are like certain trees that you burn. Like, I guess you just go around burning all the trees if you if you don't know the certain ones. But yeah, for the most part,
Yeah.
I think this is really achievable. Zelda is so cool for discoverability. I didn't use a guide for my first playthrough, other than like if I was completely stuck and didn't know where to go, I'd like look it up then. But
Mhm.
I think this is like just one of the most fun Zeldas to revisit. Because it just puts you right in the action. Like, you start off immediately, you can go wherever you want to go. It's pure gameplay in a way that no other game other than Breath of the Wild in the series is. And I love it for that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think the funny thing is using a guide almost takes away from the game
Yeah.
because you see those moments, you see those like, well, how would I know about the bush, or how would I know about this thing? Like with the game, there is people in the game you can talk to that give hints, and it's not cryptic like Castlevania 2, where it's like people are outright lying to you or giving you bad information, or it's the translation's bad. No, it's weird. Like the grumble grumble. I don't know if you'll understand. Not immediately obvious, perhaps, but there are other ones. I think a lot of the secret rooms, like this, it's a secret to everybody. Those are probably the hardest and most cryptic to find, but they're
Mm.
not necessary. It's just money a lot of the time.
I also
The
like how
necessary stuff are findable.
it plays to its limitations really well too. Because the movement is grid based. Like, Link can't move diagonal, but the boomerang can. And so when it comes to like Keese, which are flying enemies that move all around the screen, the obvious thing to do is keep your distance and throw the one item that can move in multiple directions. So if it can feel rigid until you understand that you have the tools to deal with that rigidness.
Yeah. The biggest issue, I'd say, as you get further, and the enemies definitely get
The
harder.
Dark Nuts are little
Wizrobes
bitches.
and Dark Nuts are
Yeah.
Dark Nuts. Oh God, Dark Nuts.
You got to
They are
stab
the
them
worst.
in the back or the side, and they just turn. You never know when they're going to turn.
Yeah, they're just gonna turn and then hit you, and you lose your sword power up, and you're just done.
Yeah.
Well, you're in for a world of hurt. So
And you can use bombs, but they still keep walking. You never quite know if the bomb's going to hit them or not.
yeah, exactly. You never know exactly how much it's doing. Yeah, it's odd, but all right. I think it's pretty obvious what the number one
It's
game.
Super Mario Brothers 3, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is my favorite game of all time. This
Mm.
is my personal favorite. I love this game. I grew up with this game. I've beaten this game far more times than I can count. It has just been with me. I don't know whether I heard it from a friend. The white block I heard from a
Yeah.
friend about how to drop down through, but I found other secrets on my own just out of curiosity. Like I think it was the first castle with Boom Boom. If you fly above with the
Mm.
raccoon suit, you can find I think it's one of the flutes. I figured that out on my own. It's just one of those things where that exploration really did reward you, and having the power of flight was amazing as a kid. It
Yes.
really felt like it was a brand new world just because of the raccoon suit, and it's why it's still one of my favorites to this day, as far as power ups go.
This was another one that I played through Mario Advance for the first time, so we're talking years and years on. But there still wasn't really a platformer that I played that was quite like Mario 3. It was so free, so original, um, and I think that's true today. All that really rivaled
Mhm.
it in those years was Mario World, and then again, nothing really came close.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. You're comparing an NES game to a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah, and you
That's the
can still say the
rivalry.
NES game is better, and I think I can respect that. I think it might be better.
I mean, I like the variety in power ups. I don't mind the fact that it's short, sweet levels that really
I
give you
love
just a
that.
lot of variety.
Yeah,
There's a lot. In replaying it, I have seen there's a lot of reliance on auto scrolling levels, but they're not. Again, the shortness plays into it. It's not so bad.
and you
It
can
really
avoid some of
feels like
them because the world might gives you the freedom to
yeah,
go where you want, and some of them are just on optional paths, and that's another cool thing
exactly.
about this game.
I've discovered in replaying both of them more recently is that Mario World is more about exploration. Mario 3 is more about platforming action.
Yeah.
It comes down to like there's so many secrets in Mario World to discover.
Mm.
And there's quite a few in the 3, but nowhere near that level. And that's where the fun is. And yeah, there was no comparison. Nothing came close to this. It has a reminder. Zelda, second place, had 737 points.
Yeah.
Mario 3 had
Oh, jeez. Okay.
1,259 points. It almost doubled it.
So
There
Zelda
was
and
no
Kirby were
question
battling
that,
it out, whereas Mario 3 was just chilling with a coconut.
yeah, there was never any threat that Mario 3 was going to win this poll. It's incredible. So yeah, that is our top 10 NES games as voted by you. Um, as a reminder, number 10, Dragon Quest 3. Number 9, Super Mario Bros. 2. Number 8, Metroid. Number 7, Castlevania. Number 6, Super Mario Bros. Number 5, Mega Man 2. Number 4, Punch Out. Number 3, Kirby's Adventure. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda. And number 3, Super Mario Bros. Number 1, Super Mario Bros. 3.
Counting
Jeez.
is tough. That's a
Counting
good
is
list
tough.
though. Like it doesn't completely mirror my own. I'm disappointed that the Westerners have not played Famicom exclusive Mysterious Murasame Castle, but it's good. It's a good list.
Yeah. To break it down a little bit further, because I talked about this top 23, which I find is an excellent list all around of games to play on the NES. Um, so number 11 was actually Final Fantasy at 206. Dragon
Okay.
Quest, I was actually kind of impressed that Dragon Quest 3 beat out Final Fantasy, only by about 15 points.
It's the more ambitious and better game, but yeah, in terms of popularity, especially for the West, you'd think Final
Mm,
Fantasy would take it.
yeah, I think Final Fantasy will have its dominance once we get to the SNES and
Oh yeah.
PlayStation era.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about that. As I said before, 12 was Castlevania 3. 13 is Mega Man 3. This one surprised me how high it was because I don't associate this game with the NES.
Okay.
Number 14, Tetris.
Yeah, I mean the NES version is still used competitively today, but when you
Yes,
think
that's
Tetris, you
true.
think Game Boy, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Number 15, DuckTales,
Okay, yeah,
which I
sure.
was happy about. I voted for DuckTales. I love DuckTales.
Yeah.
16 was Contra.
Okay. I'd put that a lot
17,
higher, but I'm glad it's there.
I mean, I think the difficulty holds it back for a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess.
There's that aspect. 17 was Mega Man 4.
Hmm.
Uh, Surprised. I don't know if a lot of people would think about this one, but it did make it. Number 18, Blaster Master.
Okay. It's the NES game is good.
Yeah, it is quite good. I enjoyed it. It's hard. It's
Very
definitely
hard.
hard. And save states on the NSO helped that game a lot.
Yeah, like most of what you loved about like Blaster Master Zero is still in the NES game. Like the DNA is all there.
Yeah. Number 19 was Zelda 2.
Okay.
Got some love.
Hmm.
20 was Earthbound
Yeah.
Beginnings. 21, Mega Man 6. 22, Kid Icarus. And then 23, Dr. Mario.
I think people
So,
I need to give Kid Icarus more love because I used to be a Kid Icarus hater as well until I properly played it. It's a game that's so uninviting to start with because you're just so underpowered, but the
mhm.
stronger you get, the easier the game is. It's like a reverse difficulty curve. I think it's really, really good, especially the 3D Classics version. I hope people give that another chance.
I need to go back and try myself because yeah, I've started out on Kid Icarus and it's so hard to start with.
It is
It
hard,
it
but what if you
just
push
wrecks
through
you.
that first three levels, push through the first three levels, I think that you will find a great game in there.
Hmm. For sure. Almost made a game that almost made got above 100 points. Ninja Gaiden with 96.
Okay,
It
I
was
was
it was
wondering where
super
that
close.
was. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, just to give some extras, with 90 points, Duck Hunt, 81 points, the original Dragon Quest,
mm.
80, Bubble Bobble,
Okay, yeah.
got a lot of love. This one surprised me with 72 points, Balloon Fight.
I like Balloon Fight. I wouldn't put it like in the top tier NES games, but it's definitely one that I love to return to.
Yeah. 63, Star Tropics.
Okay,
Uh, and then with 54 points, Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. Good on you for actually re-releasing this game, Nintendo. You
that's
probably should have left it up so people could discover it more.
that was Daniel and all his alt accounts voting for that one.
I don't think Daniel voted.
Oh well, unless he didn't vote on his main account, but all his other ones.
Yeah, that could be.
It
That could be.
it's interesting that a lot of multiplayer games weren't ranked too highly. It's like Contra's hard as nails, but it's also a co-op game where you can make it easier for
Mhm.
yourself. Balloon Fight also a multiplayer game, a bit lower down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was Ice Climber? Was that was that anywhere remotely near?
I don't know. I will let you know that I was going to end with this one at 50 points, just to give you some love. Murasame Castle.
Okay, so
So it was up there. It's in like the top 30-ish,
all right, that's not so bad.
maybe 35. I don't have proper numbers at this point. Um, let's see. Ice Climber. Ice Climber had 25 points. And what were you trying to compare it to?
I just have other multiplayer games in general, but I'm surprised it had more than a few votes though.
Yeah, Ice Climber got a surprising amount of votes. It beat it beat out Ninja Gaiden 2, Ice Hockey, Bionic Commando, Gargoyle's
Ice
Quest
Climber
2.
is not better than Bionic Commando. No way.
It just got more votes, and that's the weakness of this system. Like, if you disagree, I understand it because there are games that I would absolutely place higher, but it is a popularity thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a perfect roundup of all this, but you know we're going democratic. And hey, if you want to put your voice out there to add to it, follow because hey, if you enjoyed this, I want to continue doing it. I don't think the next series of consoles, well, really PC games are going to get as many votes because do you know a lot of people that played the Commodore 64, the Amiga, the ZX Spectrum, the MSX, the Sharp A600, 68,000?
I do, but
DOS?
they're all like British people who were around in the 70s.
I need Brits for this next one because this is definitely a weakness on my part. I don't know a lot of these games. So that'll be interesting. But if you all enjoyed this, I'd love to come back with John and do this again.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's interesting seeing where everyone leans to. There's a lot of Nintendo love. A lot of third parties seem to be gravitating towards the end of the list, but maybe just Nintendo just did really great games. I mean, that's what you think of when you think NES, the Nintendo hits.
Yeah. I mean, helps that Nintendo releases them a ton, but
Yeah, true.
it is nice to see some of the other companies get in there a bit more. But this was still definitely the era of we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
We don't know what exactly we're doing, so it'll be interesting where we go from there. But the funny thing is, we're going for even more figuring things out for next time. Like, oh, the NES came out in what 85, Famicom maybe 84. I don't remember, but yeah, we got old stuff here. So next time, so probably not going to get as much attention, but it's only fair because there are some key series that started here on these systems. You got your Metal Gear 2. You got some exclusive Castlevania titles. You got the start of Rare's titles. Thanks to the ZX Spectrum.
Yeah.
Commodore 64, I think, had Wizardry and Ultima and those games. So There's a lot there's more there, and I try to provide like a list of games, like a Wikipedia list of the games.
He's going to tell me, like, at number 8 we have Splunk. And I'm like, I have to pretend I know what that means. I'm like, oh, Splunk's there?
Splunk! Oh my god, Splunk! Good luck guessing next time, that's for sure. All right. Well, I think that covers it for our greatest NES game of all time, according to Bluesky. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting us over on Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming. But even just subscribing to the channel, ringing that bell helps us a ton. And until next time, see you, everyone.
Bye.